Your Honor, none of that is true at all. It's all lies. I love my wife, but she lies constantly. So you are saying that the injuries my client presented with at the hospital are not true? No, I mean she had gotten hurt, but not because I was abu-dollaring her. So how did the injuries occur? I mean, I told her to buckle her seatbelt before we left. I guess she didn't, because when I had to slam on my brakes to avoid an accident, she flew forward and hit her head. That isn't my fault. And what about her leg? Did she somehow injure her leg herself? I have no memory of slamming her leg in the door. I don't know when that happened, or if it was actually from that or hurting her leg at an earlier time and her attempting to blame that on me. Is there currently a custody order in place for the child of both parties? No, Your Honor. The first custody hearing is scheduled to take place in 2 weeks' time. Currently, the child resides solely with my client. Yeah, and she refuses to let me see or speak to him. Sir, you are not to have another outburst in this courtroom. I don't think you understand the seriousness of this matter. Oh, I understand, but I also know that none of the things she said about me are true, and there has been no evidence proving I am a danger to my wife or child. What my client is trying to convey is that he is concerned that if his wife is allowed to place a protection order against him, it will hinder him from having any contact with his son. He just wants to be reunified with his child. I heard what your client said. I also hear the sarcasm and lack of respect every time he speaks. I see the vile stares he has given the woman he claims to love when she speaks. And I have seen that he has gone out of his way to attempt to negatively impact her life. I see a woman in this courtroom who is visibly afraid for her safety and the safety of her child, and I can't say that I blame her for that when I read the texts and posts he has made. This hearing has shown to me that this man is a clear and very present danger to the safety of the petitioner and their child. At this time, the court is ruling to place an order of protection against the defendant, Rodney Blank, that covers both the petitioner and the minor child that the couple shares, as well as anyone else in the petitioner's immediate family. The defendant is not to have contact with the petitioner outside of necessary communication in regards to their child. He is not to stalk, harass, or threaten the covered parties whatsoever. As this is not a custody hearing, I will not rule on any visitation changes for the father. The father will be entitled to contact with the child as determined by the custody hearing that will occur. And this date. The defendant is barred from the address in which the petitioner currently resides, as well as any other addresses that she may reside in while covered under this protection order. The defendant is responsible for the court fees of today's hearing and has 6 months from today's date to pay these costs. This order will be in effect for the next 18 months. At that time, the petitioner may file to extend the order if they believe it is still needed. Court is now dismissed. Court is now in session to establish a custody agreement for the minor child of Faye and Rodney Blank. Currently, the child is residing solely with the mother. Is this correct? Yes, Your Honor. The child has resided solely with my client since the beginning of the separation. There is currently an order of protection granted against the defendant that covers both the mother and the child. I see, sir. What exactly are you hoping to accomplish today while you are currently ordered to stay away from the child? My client is simply hoping to be granted some type of visitation with his child until this OFP is removed. I was speaking to your client, sir. What are you wanting to happen here today? I was hoping that a different judge would be able to see through all the lies presented and not keep a good man from his child. I see, ma'am. What are you wanting to see happen here today? Your Honor, my only goal here today is to keep son safe. He deserves to feel safe and stable, no matter what. Do you believe that your child would be safe in the care of his father? Honestly, I do not. His behavior, especially since the separation, has been terrifying and irrational. Son is already scared to even speak to him over the phone due to his father's anger and nasty command. Tease, it would scare me having to leave son alone with his father. Asterisk leaning as far back as he possibly can in his chair, Rodney dramatically throws his hands up in the air and sighs loudly asterisk. I'm sorry, Mr. Blank. Is there something you would like to say? I mean, this is just the same sub-story she told the other judge, full of lies and half-truths. She spent months now brainwashing my child against me, and now is trying to make sure she can legally keep him from me. So you are claiming that the allegations of abusation and mistreatment are false? Yes, she has taken so many innocent accidents or common relationship issues and making it out to be like a abusation at her. And what about this felony warrant for domestic violence from this other state against you? Is that fake? That warrant was in regards to a case with my ex-wife, and it was taken care of years ago. It should hold absolutely no weight today. No, I am referring to the current felony warrant for domestic violence against you from that state. I see the one you already served time for. There isn't a current warrant. I have no current warrants and haven't in years. Mr. Blank, let me be frank with you. I promise that I am very well aware of all warrants you have had and currently have. Please do not waste my time by lying to me today. Asterisk muttering under his breath, asterisk Jesus fucking Christ. I apologize, Your Honor. My client was simply confused about what you were referring to. There are plans to clear that warrant very soon. My client would love to establish supervised visitations with son until the off is cleared, as well as a daily phone call to keep communication open between the child and father. Your Honor, any visitation at this time would be a direct conflict with the OFP. This is an extremely unhinged and dangerous man with a clear history of familial violence. This man is the same man who has openly disrespected the courts multiple times and even posted publicly that he was praying for the unaliving of the judge in his previous case. His anger is triggered by the smallest possible violation a child shouldn't bear the brunt of. Your Honor, this is all purely speculation at best. My client has never harmed his son. If Mrs. Blank wishes to have an unnecessary OFP to protect herself from my client, so be it. But keeping a father from his son is criminal. There is absolutely no valid reason for my client to be kept from his son. He is being extremely reasonable about being willing to go through supervised visits to comfort his wife. But enough is enough. You are absolutely right. Enough is enough. Court is adjourned for the day. I will take the time to review the evidence submitted by both parties, and I will issue my ruling within the next week. And what about until then? She gets to keep my son from me still. Until then, I suggest you abide by the OFP that was granted and work on fixing the warrant you have against you. We didn't hear from the courts for 1 whole week. I was terrified, thinking the judge would allow Rodney to have unsupervised visits with son. I thought that there was no way the judge would believe me about the abusation. And then finally, the signed order was delivered. It is the decision of the courts that in the matter of custody of the minor child, that primary physical and legal custody will be awarded to the mother. The father may communicate with the minor child by telephone each weekday at 7 p.m. and is allowed to FaceTime the child on Saturdays and Sundays at the same time. The parties shall exchange all information regarding the health and welfare of the child. Such communication shall be via text or email. Neither party will harass or speak ill of the other in the presence of the child, nor engage in any course of conduct designed to interrupt the natural love a child has for their parent. The father is barred from having physical custody of the minor child until the time in which the order of protection is no longer in place against him, and until the felony domestic violence warrant is cleared. After receiving the court order, things remained pretty calm with Rodney, which surprised me. He left me alone for the most part. He still made his digs at me occasionally, but he didn't go out of his way to hurt or harass me. Things went like this for months. I began to feel like everything was going to be okay. I switched to a new job and even met someone through my job. It made me feel like I wasn't a victim anymore. I was someone who deserved to have a happy life. I was preparing for Son and I to move into my mom's house, and I knew that once Rodney realized we were that close to him, it would give him the incentive to start up again. But I didn't have a choice. But my stepmom was firm on making us move out, and my attorney was confident that the OFP would keep Rodney at bay. And with COVID, it was impossible to find another option for someplace to live. So I did the best with what I had. I tried to be the best co-parent I could with Rodney to keep the peace. It made my skin crawl every time I got a text from him. But I was doing what I thought was best to keep my son safe. The first 6 weeks of Son and I living with my mom went well. Rodney was aware we were there, and he generally left us alone outside of his nightly calls. He would make sure that he was outside more often when he knew we would be outside, but he didn't attempt to initiate contact. He just watched us. It was weird, but technically not a violation of the OFP. Things began to deteriorate when he began getting fed up that Son would more often than not refuse to carry a conversation with him during his nightly calls. It infuriated him that there was nothing he could do to force him to speak. And of course, that was my fault. I have been documented the fact that you refuse to allow adequate communication between Son and I during our calls. He is to actually speak to me, or hold the cameras so I can actually see him and not the ceiling. You refuse to ensure this is happening. I am not involved in your phone calls with Son. I set up his tablet for the call, and then I give him privacy if you want him to engage with you. You should try talking to him about these things he is really into right now. You are his mother. It is your responsibility to enforce that he shows me respect as his father and make him participate in these calls. If he cannot show respect, maybe you should actually start giving him consequences for his behavior. I am not going to punish him for feeling uncomfortable during these calls when you are barely speaking either. He should not have to carry the brunt of the call to boost your ego. You should try harder. Funny you say I need to try harder when you're the one living with your mom and not willing to try harder to support yourself without help. I expect tomorrow's call to be much more engaging. As this conversation is no longer about Son and his well-being, I will be ending communication. Have a good night. Oh, I will. I'm only 2 houses away. Remember, if you want to finally grow up and have a good time too, and stop destroying our family, you only have to walk your Ash to houses down with Son to fix what you've done. I'll be sitting out here on the porch if you or Son want to come down here and talk to me. I'd love to see you both. Why is neither you or Son answering my phone calls? I'm allowed a phone call at 7 p.m. every night, and it is now 7:10, and there has been no one answering the call or calling me back. I demand a phone call back immediately before I report this contempt to the courts. Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the time. Son is with my dad right now. I had to rush Mom into the hospital. She is struggling to breathe and they believe she has COVID along with her COPD. Are they thinking she is going to pull through? How bad is it? It's bad. They believe she is in end-stage COPD now, and it's very much touch and go at the moment. Good. I hope she does unalive. She deserves it. She's nothing but a spiteful and petty bitch, just like her daughter. That bitch Anna living is no excuse to deny me my court-ordered phone call. It has no effect on me except for making my life better. I expect you to give me a makeup call as soon as you are back with Sun. So Faye's mother has end-stage COPD and possibly heart failure from COVID. My prayers have finally been answered and dreams really do come true. Let's hope it's a slow and painful way to go. I am so glad I have witnesses who will be able to testify for me about how Faye uses things that have no bearing on Sun to deny me the minimal contact I am allowed to have with him. I'm done with her games. It's okay for her to break the rules, but not me. The brainwashing both Faye and her mother have done to my son is sickening. One day these evil people will have to answer for the lies they have told and the damage they have done, and I can't wait. Hopefully that day has come for Faye's mother, but one day Faye herself will have to look Sun in the eye and explain to him why she refused to let him have a father. And I can't wait to see how his anger destroys her. She thinks she is so clever and can outsmart me, but she's wrong. Sun will see the truth, and I will always tell him the truth. Don't worry, Sun, your daddy is always going to be here for you.